Hello, and welcome to the EL Library Live Read Aloud of Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus, read with permission from Random House Children's Books. So today we are on Chapter 4, but we always recap what happened in a previous chapter, so we're going to recap a little bit about what happened in Chapter 3. And I think that's good because in this book there's a lot of characters, and so it's good to kind of have a really good grasp on who each of these characters are. So if you notice, yesterday's chapter was narrated by Malcolm. And so from now on in the book, all the alternating chapters are going to be one by Malcolm and then the next one by Ellery. So today's chapter will be by Ellery. So let's see what is happening. They're getting ready for a fundraising event in honor of Lacey Kilduff. Declan and Malcolm's mother is married now to Peter Nilsson, a well-known, well-off businessman. And Malcolm and his mother now live with them, and his daughter, Peter's daughter, Katrin. Katrin's a really popular girl at school. She's kind of a little bit snobby, and so her and Malcolm are the exact opposites because he's definitely an outcast. And actually, Malcolm's mother and Peter are kind of similar. They're kind of like mismatched couple like that. When they arrive at the event, there's an awkwardness in the room because most people still believe that Declan killed Lacey. So it's kind of strange, to see these people there. They haven't ever been invited before, so for Malcolm and his mom to be there is kind of strange. Malcolm notices Ellery and Ezra for the first time as Katrin is begging her father to sit with her boyfriend Theo's father and their family, and so they do so, but it also means that they're sitting with Kyle McNulty and his father Chad, and Chad is the police officer who investigated Lacey's murder, and he hates Declan because Declan actually dated his daughter prior to but then he broke up with her prior to when Declan began dating Lacey. As the event gets underway, Malcolm excuses himself. He's listened to Peter talk long enough. He walks outside to just get some fresh air, and he smells fresh paint, which is kind of weird. And he finds a can of spray paint on the ground. He follows the smell. He picks up the can, and it leads him to the sign of the cultural center where the event is being held that evening. Someone has painted a threatening message on the sign, which says, "Murderland, the sequel coming soon." And just as the chapter ends, Ellery also ends up outside and finds Malcolm with a can of spray paint in his hand. So that is where we ended yesterday. So today's chapter is chapter 4. And like I said, this chapter is being narrated by Ellery. And the date is Saturday, September 7th. How's everything going? I consider the text from my friend Lourdes. She's in California, but not Puente. I met her in 6th grade, which was 3 towns before we moved there, or maybe 4. Unlike Ezra, who jumps easily into the social scene every time we switch schools, I hang on to my virtual best friend and keep the in-person stuff surface level. It's easier to move on that way. It requires fewer emo playlists, anyway. Let's see. We've been here a week, and so far the highlight is yard work. Lourdes sends a few sad face emojis, then adds, "It'll pick up when school starts. Have you met any cute, preppy New England guys yet?" Just one, but not preppy, and possibly a vandal. Do tell. I pause, not sure how to explain my run-in with the boy at Lacey Kilduff's fundraiser, when my phone buzzes with a call from a number with a California area code. I don't recognize it, but my heart leaps, and I fire off a quick text to Lourdes. "Hang on, getting a call about my luggage, I hope." I've been in Vermont a full week, and my suitcase is still missing. If it doesn't show up within the next 2 days, I'm going to have to start school in the clothes my grandmother bought at Echo Ridge's one and only clothing store. It's called Dalton's Emporium, and also sells kitchen goods and hardware, which should tell you everything you need to know about its fashion cred. No one who's older than 6 or younger than 60 should shop there. Ever. Hello? Ellery, hi! I almost dropped my phone, and when I don't answer, the voice doubles down on its cheerful urgency. It's me! Yeah, I know. I lower myself stiffly onto my bed, gripping the phone in my suddenly sweaty palm. How are you calling me? Sadie's tone turns reproachful. You don't sound very happy to hear from me. It's just, I thought we were supposed to start talking next Thursday. Those were the rules of rehab, according to Nana. 15-minute Skype sessions once a week after two full weeks of treatment had been completed, not random calls from an unknown number. The rules here are ridiculous, Sadie says. I can practically hear the eye roll in her voice. One of the aides is letting me use her phone. She's a Defender fan. The only speaking role Sadie ever had was in the first installment of what turned out to be a huge action series in the 90s, The Defender, about a down-on-his-luck soldier turning avenging cyborg. She played a sexy robot named Zeta Voltes, and even though she had only one line, "That does not compute," there are still fan websites dedicated to the character. I'm dying to see you, love. Let's switch to FaceTime. I pause before hitting accept, because I'm not ready for this. At all. But what am I going to do? Hang up on my mother? Within seconds, Sadie's face fills the screen, bright with anticipation. She looks the same as ever, nothing like me except for the hair. Sadie's eyes are bright blue, while mine are so dark they almost look black. She's sweet-faced, with soft, open features, and I'm all angles and straight lines. There's only one other trait we share, and when I see the dimple in her right cheek flash with a smile, I force myself to mirror it back. "There you are," she crows. Then a frown creases her forehead. "What's going on with your hair?" My chest constricts. Is that seriously the first thing you have to say to me? I haven't talked to Sadie since she checked into Hamilton House, the pricey rehab center Nana's paying for. Considering she demolished an entire storefront, Sadie lucked out. She didn't hurt herself or anyone else, and she wound up in front of a judge who believes in treatment instead of jail time. But she's never been particularly grateful. Everyone and everything else is at fault. The doctor who gave her too strong a prescription, bad lighting on the street, our car's ancient brakes. It didn't fully hit me until just now, sitting in a bedroom that belongs to my grandmother, I barely know, listening to Sadie criticize my hair through a phone that someone could probably get fired for giving her, how infuriating it all is. "Oh, Elle, of course not. I'm just teasing. You look beautiful. How are you?" How am I supposed to answer that? I'm fine. What happened in your first week? Tell me everything. I could refuse to play along, I guess. But as my eye catches the photo of Sadie and her sister on the bookcase, I already feel myself wanting to please her, to smooth things over and make her smile. I've been doing it my entire life. It's impossible to stop now. Things are just as weird as you've always said. I've already been questioned twice by the police. Her eyes pop. What? I tell her about the hit and run and the graffiti at Lacey's fundraiser 3 days ago. Declan Kelly's brother wrote that? Sadie asks, looking outraged. He said he just found the paint canister. She snorts. Likely story. I don't know. He looked pretty shocked when I saw him. God, poor Melanie and Dan. That's the last thing they need. The police officer I talked to at the fundraiser said he knew you. Officer McNulty? I forget his first name. Sadie grins. Chad McNulty. Yeah, we dated sophomore year. God, you're going to meet all my exes, aren't you? Was Vance Puckett there by any chance? He used to be gorgeous. I shake my head. Ben Coates? Peter Nilsson? None of those names are familiar except the last one. I met him at the fundraiser right after his stepson and I reported the sign vandalism. You dated that guy? I ask. Doesn't he own like half the town? I guess so. Cute, but kind of a tight ass. We went out twice when I was a senior, but he was in college then, and we didn't really click. He's Malcolm's stepfather now, I tell her. Sadie's face scrunches in confusion. Who? Malcolm Kelly. Declan Kelly's brother? The one with the spray paint? Good Lord, Sadie mutters. I cannot keep up with that place. Some of the tenseness that's been keeping me rigid ebbs away, and I laugh as I settle back against my pillow. Sadie's superpower is making you feel as though everything's going to be fine, even though it's mostly disastrous. Officer McNulty said his son's in our class, I tell her. I guess he was at the fundraiser, but I didn't meet him. Ugh, we're all so old now. Did you talk to him about the hit and run too? No, that officer was really young. Ryan Rodriguez? I don't expect Sadie to recognize the name, but an odd expression flits across her face. What? Do you know him? I ask. No, how would I? Sadie asks, a little too quickly. When she catches my dubious squint, she adds, well, it's just... Now, don't go making too much of this, Ellery, but I know the way you think. But he fell apart at Lacey's funeral. Way more than her boyfriend did. It caught my attention, so I remembered it, that's all. Fell apart how? Sadie heaves a theatrical sigh. I knew you'd ask that. You brought it up. Oh, just, he cried a lot, almost collapsed. His friends had to carry him out of the church. And I said to Melanie, wow, they must have really been close. But she said they barely knew one another. Sadie lifts a shoulder in a half shrug. He probably had a crush, that's all. Lacey was a beauty. What's that? She glances off to one side, and I hear the murmur of another voice. Oh, okay. Sorry, Elle, but I have to go. Tell Ezra I'll call him soon, okay? I love you, and... She pauses, something like regret crossing her face for the first time. And I'm glad you're meeting people. No apology. Saying she's sorry would mean acknowledging that something's wrong, and even when she's calling me cross-country from rehab on a contraband phone, Sadie can't do it. I don't answer, and she adds, I hope you're doing something fun for your Saturday afternoon. I'm not sure if fun is the right word, but it's something I've been planning since I learned I was going to Echo Ridge. Fright Farm opens for the season today, and I'm going. Sadie shakes her head with exasperated fondness. Of course you are, she says, and blows me a kiss before she disconnects. Hours later, Ezra and I are walking through the woods behind Nana's house toward Fright Farm, leaves crunching beneath our feet. I'm wearing some of my new Dalton's clothes, which Ezra has been snickering at since we left the house. I mean, he says as we step over a fallen branch, what would you even call those? Leisure pants? Shut up, I grumble. The pants, which are some kind of synthetic stretchy material, were the most inoffensive piece of clothing I could find. At least they're black, and sort of fitted. My gray and white check t-shirt is short and boxy, and has such a high neck that it's almost choking me. I'm pretty sure I've never looked worse. First Sadie with your hair, now you with the clothes. Ezra's smile is bright and hopeful. She looked good, though? He asks. He and Sadie are so similar sometimes, so blissfully optimistic, that it's impossible to say what you really think around them. When I used to try, Sadie would sigh and say, Don't be such an Eeyore, Ellery. Once, only once, she had added under her breath, You're just like Sarah. Then pretended not to hear me when I asked her to repeat what she'd said. She looked great, I tell Ezra. We hear noise from the park before we see it. Once we emerge from the woods, it's impossible to miss. The entrance looms across the road in the shape of a huge, monstrous head with glowing green eyes and a mouth wide open in a scream that serves as the door. It looks exactly like it did in pictures from the news coverage about Lacey's murder, except for the arched sign that reads Fright Farm in spiky red letters. Ezra shades his eyes against the sun. I'm just going to say it. Fright Farm is a crap name. Murderland was better. Agreed, I say. There's a road running between the woods and the Fright farm entrance, and we wait for a few cars to pass before crossing it. A tall black spire fence circles the park, enclosing clusters of tents and rides. Fright farm opened less than an hour ago, but it's already packed. Screams fill the air as a salt and pepper shaker ride flips back and forth. When we get closer to the entrance, I see that the face is covered with mottled and red-speckled grayish paint, so it looks like a decaying corpse. There's a row of 4 booths directly inside, with 1 cashier to a booth, and at least 24 people waiting. Ezra and I get in line, but I break away after a few minutes to check out the information board and grab a bunch of papers stacked up beneath it. Maps, I tell Ezra. I hand him one, plus another sheet of paper. And job applications. His brow furrows. You want to work here? We're broke, remember? And where else would we work? I don't think there's anyone any place in walking distance. Neither of us have our driver's license, and I can already tell Nana's not the chauffeuring type. Ezra shrugs. All right, hand it over. I fish a couple of pens out of my messenger bag, and we almost complete the applications before it's our turn to buy tickets. I fold Ezra's and mine together and stuff them both in the front pocket of my bag as we leave the booths. We can drop them off before we go home. Where should we go first? Ezra asks. I unfold my map and study it. Well, it looks like we're in the kids section right now, I report. Dark Matters is to the left. That's an evil science laboratory. Bloody Big Top to the right, probably self-explanatory. And the House of Horrors is straight ahead. That doesn't open till 7, though. Ezra leans over my shoulder and lowers his voice. Where did Lacey die? I point to a tiny picture of a Ferris wheel. Under there. Well, that's where they found her body, anyway. Police thought she was probably meeting someone. Echo Ridge kids used to sneak into the park after hours all the time, I guess. It didn't have any security cameras back then. We both glance up at the nearest building, where a red light blinks from one corner. It does now, obviously. Do you want to start there? Ezra asks. My throat gets dry. A group of masked kids dressed in black swoops past us, one of them knocking into my shoulder so hard that I stumble. Maybe we should check out the games, I say, refolding the map. It was a lot easier to take ghoulish pleasure at visiting a crime scene before I met the victim's family. We walk past snack stands and carnival games, pausing to watch a boy our age sink enough baskets in a row to win a stuffed black cat for his girlfriend. The next station has the kind of shooting gallery game where 2 players each try to knock over 12 targets in a box. A guy wearing a ratty hunting jacket, who looks like he's 40 or so, pumps his fist in the air and lets out a loud guffaw. Beat ya, he says, punching the shoulder of the kid next to him. The man stumbles a little with the movement, and the boy recoils and backs away. Maybe you should give someone else a turn. The girl behind the counter is about my age and pretty, with a long brown ponytail that she winds anxiously around her fingers. The man in the hunting jacket waves the toy gun he's holding. Plenty of room next to me. Anybody can play if they're not too chicken. His voice is loud, and he's slurring his words. The girl crosses her arms as if she's steeling herself to sound tough. There are lots of other games you could play. You're just mad 'cause nobody can beat me. Tell you what, if any of these losers can knock down more than me, I'll bow out. Who wants to try? He turns toward the small crowd gathering around the stand, revealing a lean, scruffy face. Ezra nudges me. How can you resist? He asks under his breath. I hesitate, waiting to see if someone older or bigger might help out, but when nobody does, I step forward. I will. I meet the girl's eyes, which are hazel, heavily mascaraed, and shadowed with dark circles. She looks like she hasn't slept in a week. The guy blinks at me a few more times, then bends at the waist in an exaggerated bow. The movement almost topples him, but he rights himself. Well, hello, madame. Challenge accepted. I'll even pay for you. He fishes 2 crumpled dollars out of his pocket and hands them to the girl. She takes them gingerly and drops them into a box in front of her, as if they were on fire. Never let it be said that Vance Puckett isn't a gentleman. Vance Puckett? I burst out before I can stop myself. This is Sadie's ex? The gorgeous one? Either her standards were a lot lower in Echo Ridge, or he peaked in high school. His bloodshot eyes narrow, but without a spark of recognition. Not surprising. With my hair pulled back, there's nothing Sadie-like about me. Do I know you? No. It's just... That's a good name, I say limply. The ponytailed girl presses a button to reset the targets. I move to the second station as Vance raises the gun and sets his sights. Champions first, he says loudly, and starts firing off shots in quick succession. Even though he's clearly drunk, he manages to knock over 10 of the 12 targets. He raises the gun when he's finished and kisses the barrel, causing the girl to grimace. Still got it, Vance says, making a sweeping gesture toward me. Your move, my lady. I raise the gun in front of me. I happen to possess what Ezra calls freakishly good aim, despite having zero athletic talent in any other capacity. My hands are slick with sweat as I close one eye. Don't overthink it, I remind myself. Just point and shoot. I press the trigger and miss the first target, but not by much. Vance snickers beside me. I adjust my aim and hit the second. The crowd behind me starts murmuring when I've lowered the rest of the targets in the top row, and by the time I've hit 9, they're clapping. The applause spikes at number 10 and turns into whoops and cheers when I knock over the last one and finish with 11 down. Ezra raises both arms in the air like I just scored a touchdown. Vance stares at me slack-jawed. You're a goddamn ringer. Move along, Vance, someone calls. There's a new sheriff in town. The crowd laughs, and Vance scowls. For a few beats, I think he won't budge. Then he flings his gun on the counter with a snort. Game's fixed anyway, he mutters, stepping back and shoving his way through the crowd. The girl turns toward me with a tired but grateful smile. Thanks. He's been here for almost half an hour, freaking everyone out. I thought he was going to start firing into the crowd any minute now. They're only pellets, but still. She reaches under the counter and pulls out a handy wipe, swiping it thoroughly across Vance's gun. I owe you one. Do you guys want free wristbands to the House of Horrors? I almost say yes, but pull out my and Ezra's job applications instead. Actually, would you mind putting a good word in for us with your boss, or whoever does the hiring around here? The girl tugs on her ponytail instead of taking the papers from me. Thing is, they only hire kids from Echo Ridge. We are, I say brightly. We just moved here. She blinks at us. You did? Are you? Oh. I can almost see the puzzle pieces locked together in her mind as she glances between Ezra and me. You must be the Cochran twins. It's the same reaction we've been getting all week, like all of a sudden she knows everything about us. After spending our lives in the orbit of a city where everyone's fighting for recognition, it's weird to be so effortlessly visible. I'm not sure I like it, but I can't argue with the results when she extends her hand toward the applications with a beckoning motion. I'm Brooke Bennett. We'll be in the same class next week. Let me see what I can do. And that is the end of Chapter 4. We will continue right here tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, right on YouTube channel, Edward Little YouTube channel. Thanks for joining in today. I hope you enjoyed the reading as much as I have. The story's getting good, lots of characters, lots of excitement. So join us right back here tomorrow afternoon, and thanks for joining in. Have a great day, everyone.